Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another video. Today we'll be talking about the series finale for the Clone Wars, which does seem weird to say. So the first half of this video will be completely spoiler free, and I'll put some sort of indication in the upper right hand corner. When that's gone, just know that spoilers may be talked about, so if you haven't watched the episode yet, like I'm sure is the case with most of you, maybe come back later. And if you're wondering, right now the Clone Wars is available to watch in certain regions, so if you have a VPN or some other method, that's how you can see the episode early instead of having to wait until tomorrow, which works out for me because the episodes usually come out at 4 my time and I'm usually too tired to make a video. Anyway, let's talk about my non-spoiler reactions to this episode. And I have to say, just generally, I think we all know what we're getting. Order 66 was launched in episode 11. We know that it's basically Rex and Ahsoka versus the world, trapped on a Star Destroyer full of thousands of clones. This episode basically shows us how that plays out, and as I'm sure most of you can guess, where the characters of Rex and Ahsoka will go moving forward. It's interesting, this was not quite like last episode, which had a very slow and methodical opening, then an action-packed ending. Instead, for episode 12, we get action and these sort of emotional moments throughout, and I will say, I absolutely loved pretty much everything that we got. We get to see what happened to our favorite Clone Wars characters. The animation and the visual effects continue to be just next level. And I've got to say, I wasn't as into the Clone Wars during its first run as I know many of you were, but the ending in various parts of this episode left me feeling legitimately pretty emotional. I would say more so than any episode that we've gotten throughout the season, which is great. Without getting into specific spoilers, there's a scene about midway through where you can literally see everyone's lives just falling apart. Ahsoka and Rex knowing for sure that things will never be the same, and in the background, things are literally falling apart. You'll know what I mean when you watch it. To me, that was probably the most beautiful moment in the entire Clone Wars, and I don't just mean emotionally, but also visually. And I'm just so sad that this show is over. This season has really showed me, especially this last arc, how much potential there is for stories told within this time frame. And we know that there was so much more left that the Clone Wars wanted to show us. However, and this is sacrilegious, I'm also left wondering, what would the show be like if they had made the brave choice to kill Ahsoka at the end? I think that would have made the tragedy of the prequels even more tragic. But then of course we lose the character of Ahsoka, who has a lot more interesting story that I think we'll get to experience in whatever next TV show Dave Filoni gives us. I'm really itching to talk about spoilers, so I'll just give my general spoiler-free review and say that this was probably my favorite Clone Wars episode of the season, and perhaps the best Clone Wars episode ever. Like a lot of prequel material, especially around the end of episode 3, it was sort of cathartic in a way, because it shows that even when everything is so dark, there is still some hope. But let's move on to spoilers, and I'll kind of go through what happens in the episode just very generally and give my thoughts. Unfortunately, I can't use video, or at least I don't want to, because it risks me getting a copyright flag, I think, where the content is not out for everyone. So I'll either just use pictures or just some general representations of what's going on. So the episode continues, of course, with both Maul and the pair of Ahsoka and Rex trying to escape the Venator. They don't work together in any sort of way, they're in completely different parts of the ship, and of course they're taking completely different approaches, with Maul continuing to brutalize clones using force chokes and some of the coolest action in the series, while Rex and Ahsoka are stunning clones and just generally deflecting their shots. I think this episode probably has the most clones that we've ever seen in action. Of course, there are scenes where you see thousands of them standing around, but on certain occasions, we actually see Ahsoka and Rex stand down hundreds and hundreds of clones. So Maul heads to the engineering section and destroys the hyperdrive with the Force, which not only rips the Venator out of hyperspace, but also critically injures it, and it's heading towards the moon and being pulled down by gravity. Basically, the Venator is going to destroy itself, and everyone needs to find a way off. There's really only one option, and that's go for the shuttles. The problem is that Jesse is leading literally hundreds of clones and waiting for Rex and Ahsoka there. This is probably one of the most emotional moments of the episode, because we see Rex struggling with the actions of his brothers. He is so frustrated and so angry, and really so betrayed by the Republic, that he almost wants to just kill everyone. I think because it's the only way to deal with the pain, when Ahsoka at this point is just completely unwilling to inflict any more death. She says they may be willing to die, but I will not be the ones to kill them. And the clones at this point are fairly rabid. They're hunting Ahsoka and Rex as if they were vermin. They don't care about their lives or the fact that the Star Destroyer is plunging towards this planet. They just want to kill them. Thankfully, Rex and Ahsoka do have a plan. We see Rex bring out Ahsoka in custody, basically trying to reason with Jesse, saying what we all did after the last episode, that, well, Order 66 says to kill all Jedi. Ahsoka technically isn't a Jedi anymore, but Jesse doesn't buy it at all, and we find out that the Order 66 was basically built well enough that it can't be broken with a few mere technicalities, which is pretty disappointing. Jesse also finds Rex in violation of Order 66 and demotes him a rank, which I thought was funny because in Rebels he's always called Captain Rex, of course, and he has a line about not liking to be a commander anyway. But with the help of the droids, Ahsoka and Rex make it towards the last shuttle available. However, it's stolen at the last moment by Darth Maul. We get one of Ahsoka's most impressive force displays as she tries to stop the shuttle from leaving the Venator and is almost successful. However, she's forced to stop and defend Rex and herself from, again, the hundreds of clones who are now firing at her. And we get about 5 minutes of just really intense action, all of which is animated as well as literally anything in this show's history and is incredibly satisfying to watch. Rex is basically in the back just firing off stun bolts as Ahsoka is defending them with her lightsaber. Eventually they make their way into the bowels of the ship and find a lone Y-Wing. They're still being helped out by the droids, including Ahsoka's R7. However, each of them is brutally destroyed. R7, I think, representing just one more element of Ahsoka's past, which has now been killed. They leave the Venator and there's this beautiful shot of the capital ship just dying. It's falling through the atmosphere and coming apart as Ahsoka and Rex are just trying to get a hold of their Y-Wing and try to make their way to safety. It reminded me very much of the Battle of Quell, which was fought in atmosphere. It has a very similar aesthetic, and that was always one of my favorite battles in the show, so I was all for this sequence, and, well, it's just really beautiful, really well done. But eventually the Venator does land, it dies on the planet, and takes every clone with it, presumably. We get a scene of Rex basically getting some supplies and loading himself back into the Y-Wing, and Ahsoka makes not only a beautiful tribute to her droid, but also to the clones, chiefly among them Jesse, who is confirmed to have died during the crash. And they really could have ended the episode with that, but I'm not going to lie, I was fairly shocked with what came next. Sometime later, and presumably this is years, we see, flanked by Imperial stormtroopers, snow troopers, and Imperial technology, Darth Vader rediscover the lightsaber that he gave Ahsoka just a few episodes ago. Alongside it, he discovers the helmet of a clone. While circling above, we see what I think is a convor, of course, which ties to not only the Clone Wars, but also Ahsoka's further adventures in Star Wars Rebels, and when she meets her master the next time. There's not much else to say here. We knew what was going to happen. We knew what would happen with the characters. I will admit I am a bit disappointed that we only get to see Ahsoka and Rex's arc throughout the entire episode. I would have loved to see more parts of the galaxy, but it wasn't really in keeping with, I think, the smaller, more focused story that Dave Filoni and the others wanted to tell with this final arc. The episode named Life and Death, though, is very appropriate. Super melancholy episode. It doesn't leave you feeling super happy, but you do feel a little bit of hopeful because of the lightness that still survives even when the dark elements of the prequel trilogy are playing out in front of our eyes. Also, I just have to say how phenomenal Vader looks. I wish he would have looked that good for Star Wars Rebels. I think this is probably the best he's ever looked animated, and that shot where he's looking at the clone helmet and picking up Ahsoka's lightsaber is crazy because you're imagining Anakin himself, who appeared only a couple of episodes earlier. All in all though, as I said, really phenomenal episode, probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, of the series, but I'm really curious to hear what you guys thought. If you've seen the episode, how would you rate it? What do you think about the spoilers that I've shared with you guys? If you haven't, I'd like to hear all of that and more down in the comments. No hashtag AskGet question of the day. We'll return to that soon, and I hope you guys enjoyed this last season of the Clone Wars. Hopefully we get some more episodes, just some more independent arcs, fingers crossed. Until then though guys, have a great one, and may the Force be with you.